Meanwhile, we are following breaking news right now on NBC News Now, where the Supreme Court has unanimously ruled that the NCAA cannot limit certain benefits to student athletes. NBC News Justice correspondent Pete Williams joins us now to unpack all of this. Pete, help us understand the court's ruling here. What does this mean when it comes to actually paying student athletes?
Well, that's not what the case was about, but it does have meaning for that. This case was specifically about the NCAA's caps on what were known as education-related benefits, not related to a student's performance as an athlete, but their needs as students. So for things like, things like musical instruments, computers, scientific equipment, the ability to take internships, to get scholarships in postgraduate settings after they stop playing, all that kind of thing. That's what was at issue. And the Supreme Court said the NCAA can't cap those benefits. The decision was not directly about compensation, but this is a very bad sign for the NCAA's ability to try to stop this move toward giving athletes at least some compensation. There's a number of state laws now. I think the number is up to 15 states that have said students should be able to receive some compensation for the use of their names, their images, their likenesses. The question right now is, well, if a student did try to take advantage of those state laws, they would lose their NCAA eligibility. So what's the NCAA going to do about that? It was scheduled to meet this month to talk about that.
So just to be clear for our viewers, I mean, Pete, this doesn't have to do with direct monetary compensation, but it does have to do with benefits. And as we understand it, antitrust law has played a pretty big part in this, from the lower court up to the Supreme Court's ruling. So could that impact how the NCAA does business going forward?
Yeah, so the critical thing here is the Supreme Court basically brushes aside the NCAA's legal argument here, which was they were entitled to this protection because the marketplace, that is to say the fans, go to college athletics because the student athletes aren't paid, that amateurism is something that has to be preserved. And the Supreme Court basically says that's not necessarily true, and Justice Kavanaugh, in a concurrence, goes much, much further. He says, while this case wasn't about compensation, he doesn't think the NCAA's arguments about compensation hold. He says the NCAA's business model would be flatly illegal in almost any other industry in America. And then he says, for example, restaurants can't get together and decide among themselves to cut wages on the theory that customers want to eat food prepared by low-paid workers. So this is a complete rejection by Kavanaugh of what the NCAA says, and not a good sign if it's going to try to hold the line here on compensation.
All right, Justice Correspondent Pete Williams for us there in Washington, D.C. Pete, as always, thank you.